this unit, we'll look at the TOEFL listening tasks from a slightly different lens. Not by breaking down the composition of and strategies for different question types, but by reviewing the argumentational structure of the listening segments. In the writing portion of our course, we emphasize the importance of understanding an argument in order to develop your own. When you listen, and this advice applies not only to TOEFL listening passages, but also to almost every other aspect of communication in real life. Try to listen actively and thoughtfully. In order to do so, let's reiterate the context in which we'll listen to 1/3 of the listening pieces, conversations happening in campus situations. The TOEFL primarily tests your ability to speak, read, write, and understand English. As I've mentioned in different sections throughout this course, as each question also deals with a type of situation or with an academic field, particularly in listening and reading sections. While you don't need to have a lot of background to succeed on the TOEFL, having some basic background information on these situations and academic fields can help you better understand the questions you'll see on the test. The situations on the TOEFL revolve around things that often happen on a university campus in the United States. The academic topics come from the natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities. During the speaking and listening tasks, you hear conversations that take place on a university campus. And the speakers have various roles that are associated with the campus setting, including students and professors, but also sports coaches, administrators, museum directors, bursars, and so on. If you find on practice TOEFL questions that you are coming across roles unknown to you, then do some research on the internet. A bursar, for instance, is the person or office who collects the tuition and fees at a university. It's worth noting that on the TOEFL, there are conversations in which students will make requests that challenge the rules or question the professor or another person in authority. On campuses outside of the United States, this type of interaction between a student and an authority figure might be considered rude, or it might even be prohibited. But these situations are more common in the United States, are not considered rude. Accordingly, you may see this type of conversation on the TOEFL very often. Okay, TOEFL conversations may also discuss campus situations or topics that are unfamiliar to you. Like, you might not be familiar with the typical system of midterm exams and final exams, the grading systems that are used in the States and here in our course, or the various types of assignments that students are given in classes, typical extracurricular activities, so forth. You won't need in-depth knowledge of this type of information to successfully answer a TOEFL question. But it's good to be prepared so that you're not distracted by confusing terminology while trying to listen to a question. So where should you research to learn more about university campuses in the United States? Well, orientation videos, which are the videos schools make about themselves, are often available on university websites and are a very reliable source. They provide more realistic representations of university life than movies and TV shows, which tend to favor drama over realism. So if you search YouTube for "A Day in the Life of a First-Year Student" posted by Harvard University, you'll find a Harvard orientation video. Many vloggers these days also post videos of their daily experience as a university student, from walking to lectures to coming out of laboratories late in the evening to sitting around with roommates in a dormitory suite. All these scenarios are ground for conversations about campus situations, news, and whatnot. So definitely check them out to supplement your understanding of university life. From there, you might branch out to watch videos posted by actual students at schools that you are interested in attending. And you can always contact the schools themselves and ask to get in touch with current students. If you can visit, then take a tour and ask questions. This can also be an opportunity to practice English conversation. Anyhow, let's remember the following brief points about conversations. When listening to any campus situation piece, focus on these ideas and questions. Who made the conversation happen? It's usually initiated by a student, not a professor. What does that person want? How does the other person respond, both right away and in the end? And are there any important side issues? These questions won't ask you about tiny details that are only mentioned once. So you don't need to memorize or write down everything in the conversation, but you cannot go back to re-listen. So do jot down the big ideas on your paper.